Yeah, and there's like a couple different things that's kind of like different from the first album, but still follows in that, but it adds sort of like different elements. For one thing, they got a different producer. They got the great Martin Birch producing this album. He produced all the band's albums from Killers, I believe, up until Fear of the Dark. And they had a little bit of a lineup change from because on the first album there was it was the only album that has a guitarist Dennis Stratton, but due to musical differences they parted ways and they got in Adrian Smith, which in my opinion is probably still one of Iron Maiden's best guitar players, and he's actually a childhood friend of other guitarist Dave Murray. And I feel like with this album, Killers, it's a step up from the first album. It has sort of like that, but also I feel like it's where Iron Maiden is sort of like still developing their sound. They still have a little bit of that dueling guitars that Dave and Adrian have done. Bass is pretty audible. Production wise, it's great. Drumming from Clive Burr is great. And of course, this is the last album with Paul Di'Anno, because shortly after the album came out, was around the time where they were touring it, he was like fired or kicked out or left the band because of like personal issues and like drugs and alcohol and all that shit. But yeah, without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, I like the North American version. It's actually a reissue that came out in '88. So yeah, it has 11 songs on here, so let's dive right into it. First off, the album's opening track is, of course, The Idols of March, which is like the shortest song the band has ever written. It's like only 1 minute and 44 seconds. However, it's a brilliant track in its own right, with 2 great solos from Adrian and Dave, and an extra 2 or 3 minutes onto this track would have done it wonders. But I feel like it leads up to one of the album's most recognizable track and concert staple, which would be Wrathchild, which starts off with a memorable bass intro, and at Wrathchild features some cool lead parts from Dave and Adrian, and then Paul's trademark vocal style, as well as sort of like the very angsty lyrics. And Clive Burr's drumming is top notch on here, and Dave's solo is satisfactory. I feel like the song could be a little bit too repetitive, of around like almost the 3 minute mark, and it's too short to be considered a classic. But this song is great live, however. And then a clean riff starts off the next song, which is Murders in the Rue Morgue. With nearly 30 seconds in, distorted guitars take their place a little later, and the song bursts right into overdrive. And Murders in the Rue Morgue is one of the album's best songs off the album, and another forgotten classic from the Paul Di'Anno era. And honestly, I feel like this is one of the most underrated Maiden songs. And the song has some great harmonies as well as some very catchy choruses, and Paul is at his best here, and his memorable vocals make the song sort of like stick out in your mind after you've been listening to it for so long. Clive's drumming is also fantastic throughout the song, and it adds to this song sort of like fugitive themes. And Murders in the Rue Morgue is one of the album's best songs. It goes neck to neck with like the title track for the album's best song, which we'll get into that in a little bit. Next song on the album is called Another Life, which starts off with another cool intro from Clive Burr, rest in peace, before the other instruments start up. Notable about the song is its lyrics, which consists of 3 of the same verses. And I feel like Steve Harris, who pretty much wrote the song, have hit like a metal block while writing lyrics to the song. Despite the rather poor lyrics, the song has some very excellent harmonies from Dave and Adrian, and Steve's frantic bass attack is very audible, which is pretty much near audible from any Iron Maiden song, which is always great to hear. And Another Life is an average song, but a listen every once in a while will do you no harm. And following up is, of course, the album's second instrumental, being Genghis Khan. Originally written as a filler track, Genghis Khan is one of the album's finest moments, and pretty much Adrian proves that he can replace Dennis Stratton without messing with the band's chemistry. Excuse me. And amongst the highlights of the song is the time change. 2 minutes in, each musician effortlessly changes his pace on a dime, and that adds to the overall excitement of the song. And the harmonized riffs are superb and very well pulled off. A great song all around, and they're in the best after like Killers and Murders in the Rue Morgue. The next song is Innocent Exile, which starts off with a catchy bass intro following some distorted guitars from Adrian and Dave. Clive's drumming stands out here, especially like during like the pre-verses, and Paul's vocal lines are satisfactory, but they could have used a little bit more work. And the latter part of the song speeds up the pass, and it makes an exciting finish from the song. Not a classic, but it keeps the expectations high and the experience enjoyable. And next up is the album's title track, Killers. It starts off with a very good bass intro from Steve, and the title track implies a frightening atmosphere that makes it one feel as if you're actually being tailed by a serial killer. And you could tell like freaking Eddie has like a hatchet. It pretty much sums up the theme of the album. when we're at the song. And his Killers is like up there with Phantom of the Opera, Strange World, and Murders in Rue Morgue from some of the best songs from like the Paul Di'Anno era. Paul delivers some of his best vocals on the song, and his vocal lines combined with the lyrics are very catchy. Clive Burr's drumming is very well done, and it helps Steve provide a solid rhythm for the song. It's hard to point out a weak moment on the song, as Killers is about close to a perfect as the album is going to get. I feel like it's also pretty much one of my favorite Maiden songs of all time, pretty much in the top 15. And then of course we get to the song Twilight Zone, which is actually on the North American version, which is what I have right here. Here it's a fun little rocker, but this song is definitely not like the highest point of the album. Nothing in Twilight Zone really sticks out, and the song seems like a filler track. Heck, at around 2.5 minutes, it's one of the shortest songs on the album, with slightly disappointing but at the same time acceptable. Because this song doesn't really take off, Twilight Zone is the album's, I believe, skippable track, but that's just me. And then you can count on a number of acoustic Iron Maiden songs on one hand, which we go into the next song being Prodigal Son. And it's one of these songs, though it's not fully acoustic, the song has a lighter mood than many of the songs on this album, but still retains that killer sound that the band has displayed thus far. And Prodigal Son features like a beautiful instrumental halfway through the song with a mellow, lower yet amazing solos from the guitarists. The lyrics are somewhat strange, finding a deeper meaning and difficult, but Paul delivers them very well. And quite the relaxing song, Prodigal Son is like a refreshing change for some of those heavier songs. And after a break from the usual Maiden formula, we get to Purgatory, one of the fastest songs on the album. The song just explodes after it begins, with all the musicians racing along, and Paul joins in, singing as fast as he can, yet maintaining some sort of vocal melody. And every second of the song is played in overdrive, and the result is catchy, top-notch song that is very memorable. And then the last song on the album is, of course, Drifter, which is a fitting end to the album. Drifter was actually the last song that vocalist Paul Di'Anno sang for Maiden, as he was fired after the Killers World Tour. And then Paul does a really good job with the lyrics and the vocals on here, which is a highlight of the song, along with like Adrian's guitar solo. And the lyrics, aren't that special, and judging by later releases, you would think that Steve Harris wrote them. And the song has such like a nice groove to it, and another rocker type song, kind of like Twilight Zone. And this song ends with Paul shouting, "Yeah, I'm a drifter, drifting on and on and on," which kind of like, it's, you say, foreshadowing in a way. And Drifter isn't like the best Iron Maiden song, but it's pretty good, and you can listen to it once in a while. Now overall, Killers is another great addition to their discography. It's being only their second album. Like I said, it also marks the end of like one era, the first era of Iron Maiden's career. And of course, later on we would go into which I would consider the big turning point for Iron Maiden, which we would know. So overall, I'm going to give Killers by Iron Maiden an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching. See you all in the next video, and as always, keep it metal.